Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we just projectile vomit while standing on our head because this week we watched Dead Man Walking,
Written by Matt Jones.
directed by Andy Goddard.
And aired on February 20th, 2008.
So while editing the episode for this week, just noticed that we somehow didn't mention that Adam and Reset aired on the same day.
Oh, huh. It's a real double header.
Yeah, can you imagine having the double header of Adam where everything gets erased and Reset where your body gets erased and then Owen dies and then next week you get Dead Man Walking where everything gets erased. Remember, consequences can be rewritten if they're done well.
Exactly.
Were they done well this week, Keon?
I guess, but I mean, the next episode also seems to revolve around Owen. So now, having read multiple different accounts of spoilers, I just have no idea what's going to happen.
I wasn't sure if on the last episode when you said Owen's dead for sure, if you were like, if that was actually what you spoiled for yourself or not. Like,
I don't even know anymore now, so I just have no idea what's coming. So I guess I'm just back to square one.
because I knew Owen was coming back. And did you know how I knew he was coming back? I bet you could guess.
Amazon.
It's because hold on. I have to make sure I get this right. I've got Amazon open here. I just have to bring up the Torchwood season 2 page. So I already mentioned how in the description for Reset they said or in the description for Dead Man Walking they said like it's still in shock after Owen's death. Well, the like picture, they always have little picture thumbnails for all the episodes. Well, let me tell you, the picture thumbnail for next week's episode, A Day in the Death, is just Owen, just hanging out in the Torchwood hub. And let me tell you something even better. The thumbnail for From Out of the Rain, which is episode 10 this season, just features Owen and Ianto. Just Owen's just right there. Just like, thanks. Thanks, Amazon.
There could be any number of reasons for that.
I mean, yes, but like...
I mean, the most likely one of those reasons is that he's back for good, but we don't know for absolute certain yet.
Just, wow. Thanks, Amazon.
Watch those scenes that it's pulling from just be like flashbacks to when Owen was alive, just to mislead you even further.
I might almost forgive Amazon if they do that. Almost. But I might not. I guess we'll find out when we get there.
Well, this is a perfect episode to, be recording on Halloween, which it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it features death in a prominent role. So I suppose that makes it apt to record today on Halloween. I don't know what else makes it apt to be recorded on Halloween.
Maybe the fact that I forgot it was Halloween until like 15 minutes ago. So I don't have any candy or anything to give anyone. So, this recording, now is an excuse to not go to the door if the bell rings.
But only for the next approximately 1 hour or slightly longer.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Look, all I know is Owen is back, baby, which means we don't have to retire our segment yet.
No, and this week's segment is probably going to be one of the best ones. So why don't we dive in, wade through the knee-deep projectile vomit that is this episode.
Is it bad?
And get there.
Is it bad that I thought you were going to say wade knee deep into the ocean that is this episode fully clothed?
Like Patrick McGowan, yes. Check out Inevitable, a classic sci-fi podcast.
I thought that's what you were going to go for.
Well, Patrick McGowan does have a pretty, pretty high propensity for wading knee deep into water.
Patrick McGowan, my hero. And by my hero, I mean not really, because I wouldn't want to wade just knee deep into the water while fully clothed. But, you know, who knows? But yeah, let's just wade right into this. It opens with the voiceover we heard in the preview from last week, with Martha going, all right, we're going to perform an autopsy. I'm going to slice Owen open, and all of you in the audience are going to see it in visceral detail. You will see all of Owen's blood, guts, and gore pour out onto the autopsy table.
Tauntaun style, just slice him right open, crawl in. That's what Amazon didn't reveal, is that it's not actually Owen. It's just Martha having crawled into Owen's skin, replacing him for good.
Owen's secret twin.
Ian. No, it's a regular autopsy. They're going for it, but then Jack comes in, interrupts it, puts a damper on everything like he always does, and tells them that nobody's getting autopsied until he does what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which is apparently get a tarot reading from a little girl.
Yeah, you know, this was my favorite scene of the whole episode, because they just introduced this random new character, this little girl who has a long history with Jack. They explain absolutely none of it, and then we probably never see her again. And just, I find that both hilarious and also slightly endearing on the part of Torchwood, thinking they can get away with this. So I think I'm going to let them get away with this, actually.
I mean, look, what's not to like about this scene? And one, it's a tarot reading, so that already automatically makes it the best scene of the episode. Two, the camera is tilted, like, at a 45-degree angle, causing you, like, you don't notice you're doing this until, you know, a ways into the scene. But at least if you're like me, my head was kind of tilted off to the side a bit. I was like, whoa. And I tilted it, you know, back straight up, or, you know, just to a comfortable position, and then everything just got really disorienting.
You didn't like the Dutch angles in this scene?
Yeah, I do wonder if this little girl is going to come back.
Well, if you had done Britain's 10 actors this week, you would know.
Yeah, I guess so. True. Did you look her up?
Yes.
Wow.
And I was struck by this actually slightly uncomfortable revelation. Because in this episode, right, she's like a little girl. So I looked her up for Britain's 10 actors, and she was born in 95. She's only 1 year older than we are.
Well, this is what, 13. Okay, yeah, she looks 13, I guess. I mean, she also looks a little bit younger than that, but I can see it.
It just reminds me of the, like, permanence of recorded, well, not the permanence, but, like, the more permanence, I guess, of recorded material. You know, she's ever immortalized as long as this exists.
Yeah, I mean,
as a young girl.
Yeah.
But she's as old as we are. She's slightly older, so.
Well, as I always
look up
bring
what she
up,
looks like now,
you know, episode 3, Luke and Leia are now, what, 15? Yeah, let that sink in.
You know, whenever I wanted to feel old, I would just remember that, you know, about last year, I realized that the kids I like, because I umpire baseball games, the kids I was umpiring, like, weren't even conceived when I started umpiring. Like, I had been umpiring longer than their existence had been a thing. And upon that revelation, I every time I think about that, I get so incredibly uncomfortable at how old it makes me feel. So.
Huh. Well, I mean, if you think that's bad, just imagine what, you know, is going to be going through your mind when you're like 60.
I'd rather not, thanks.
When we're 60 and still doing this.
You were the one who put new content every week till we die into the goddamn Twitter description. I know it's not there anymore, but you were the one who put it there originally.
Oh, I put it back.
Oh, shoot.
Don't fret over that.
Oh,
I put
God.
it back. I changed up the description a little bit.
Did you change it again? I can't keep up with all the Twitter descriptions changing.
Well, that's why we also have Facebook, which doesn't change and hasn't in years.
Great.
We have the rock that is Facebook. Well, we also have the beautiful impermanence of Twitter.
Except what is hilarious about that is that Twitter's layout hasn't changed in at least the past 4 years, but just this past week, Facebook changed their entire UI. So
no, that's a little bit off. It was actually September, I think, when Facebook changed. Well, maybe they didn't roll it out to everyone yet.
Yeah, I only got hit with it this week.
I've been dealing with the new one for at least a month.
Yeah, that sucks, because as soon as I got the new one, I was like, wow, this is trash.
Yeah, Twitter actually did change their layout in 2018 or 19, I forget. It was tail end of 2018 or 19.
But it wasn't as much of a change as this Facebook update. And this is not a Facebook podcast, so I'm going to end this conversation right now and get back to the fact that we're only 3 minutes into the actual runtime of the episode we're supposed to be summarizing.
Well, okay, so the reason Jack goes and gets this tarot reading is that he's looking for the other gauntlet. You don't know that yet, but he goes into this abandoned church, which, I right there I almost called it a kirk, using that sort of ancient Middle English-esque, I don't know if it's actually Middle English, but it's Middle English-esque pronunciation, because that's just kind of what it evokes, Jack goes in, and it's just this Weevil, hideout / den.
Yeah, it's the Church of the Weevils. Evidently. Probably. So it seems.
But they're all sleeping, good thing they have a very, uniform sleep schedule here, where they're all sort of sleeping together. Because otherwise Jack would just be dead. And they'd have to bring him back.
Well, Jack cannot die, so...
Oh yeah, true, I forgot about that for a second.
How did you forget about the core character trait that Jack has, which is his immortality that they even talk about multiple times in this episode?
I don't know, beats the heck out of me.
I'm almost impressed. In fact, no, I take that back. I am impressed.
So Jack tiptoes through this sort of coalition of weevils, and he retrieves the gauntlet. He actually wakes them up, but you don't see how he escapes. It just cuts to the intro, and he's back at Torchwood with the second gauntlet.
They do that a lot in this episode. Just cutting away from the action. They do it again when death is revealed, and I guess Jack dies, and they just immediately cut to the hospital where he revives. You don't see how they escaped at all.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. The less action, the better. I zone out action scenes anyway, so... yeah.
So, Jack arrives back at the hub with a gauntlet in tow. I think this one is left-handed and the other one was right-handed, right? If I remember that correctly.
I don't
and
know.
So, everyone's like, hey, the glove's not going to work because the other one didn't work for you, Jack. But before we find out what happens, it's time for the Amazon X-Ray Fun Fact of the Week. And so, the Amazon X-Ray Fun Fact of the Week is that Matt Jones, when he wrote the episode, he wanted the little girl who does the tarot reading to have a cigar and a glass of whiskey to reinforce the point that she's old and immortal and timeless. But Julie Gardner, one of the producers of the show, said, yeah, we probably shouldn't have a kid with a cigar and a glass of whiskey on our television program. We'll show bare buttocks, we'll drop the F-bomb, but giving a kid cigar and whiskey, that's a no-go.
Yeah, probably the right call there.
Probably. Probably. But who are we to judge?
Well, the rest of the team is like, no, Jack, you can't do this. But he
And he's like,
does.
well, you can't stop me.
He does. He wakes up Owen, revives him. The first thing he asks is like, so Owen, what's the like password to the Torchwood morgue?
And he's like, you
know
brought
it.
me back for that? Yeah, because for some reason, Owen was the only one who knew the password to the alien morgue. I don't know why Owen is the only one who knows this password. That seems like a huge security flaw. Or not just a security flaw, like just a huge flaw in general.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. What could possibly go wrong?
Well, evidently a lot.
The rest of the team also has some last words for Owen. And by the rest of the team, I mean pretty much just Tosh.
And she leans over and just says, I love you, Owen. I've always loved you.
She leans in real close, whispers in his ear, the quest is the quest.
Owen just grabs her by the throat. What do you mean?
Goes to his grave with this mystery, like...
Tosh just never explains it to him. Never explains how she found out.
Spends the eternity of darkness or whatever, death is in the Doctor Who / Torchwood universe, like, mulling over these last words that he heard. No, she leans over and tells him that she loves him. Always has. Sort of evoking that meme from a few months ago, always has been. That was a quality meme, You thought memes couldn't be good in Anno Domini 2020? Think again.
Think you mean current era 2020? We've progressed past the need for BC and AD to BCE and CE, which are based on the exact same defining event, but just have more neutral names.
Yeah, true. How could I have faltered like this?
Yeah, I mean, how could you have faltered? Technically, personally, I go by the fact that we're living in the year 35 post Back to the Future.
Oh, wow.
I base all my years on the year Back to the Future was released. Actually, maybe it's more relevant for Doctor Who for us to say that we're living in 15 post-reboot.
Yeah, true.
In the year of our reboot, 15.
What if they just restarted the calendars for, like, coronavirus? Like, December 2019. Just, yeah.
Is what, year one?
I guess. Or I guess we'd be in one right now.
Pandemic, post-pandemic, one. Awesome. Because that's what I want. To just remember the pandemic every year. Because I'm hoping that 20 years from now, the pandemic has moved on, I'm giving it plenty of leeway to leave.
Yeah, I remember back in, circa April, May, we were like, yeah, this is probably going to be going on till, September at least. And we thought that was, a long ways away, a generous estimate.
We still, of everyone I know, gave it the most conservative estimate, and we were still wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we have another, year of this at least.
Yes!
Halloween 2021, here recording. Wow, we gave it a real conservative estimate last Halloween. Anyway, I mean, we're still only, like 5 minutes into this, so, okay, my next note is not this shit again, because this is the same thing that's, happened once before, / even twice before, with the glove.
I mean, this episode is just, after finishing it, I was like, wow, this episode was just like they keep killing Susie and the end of days had a strange bastard baby. Because it takes the general plot conceit of they keep killing Susie, which is bringing back a deceased Torchwood member after they die, but then mixes it. The conclusion to this episode is just end of days, but Owen edition, if you really think about it.
Yeah, and I feel that, like, this, I mean, this is something we said in Classic Doctor Who, and we were proved wrong every time. But this might all be leading into something. This might all be coalescing and congealing into the season finale for this season. I feel like you're going to bring
the word congeal.
Yes. Gellifying into what we might get a few weeks from now. Because I feel they're kind of bringing those two disparate, or what were disparate things together.
You have a lot more faith. Like you said, we said this every time in Classic Doctor Who, and we were wrong every time. In fact, we even said that for Star Cops, and we were wrong.
We said that for
never
Star
learned
Cops?
our lesson.
I don't remember that. Star Cops was like a lifetime ago, though, so...
Well, yes, it kind of really was. In fact, I'm pretty sure we said it about Blake 7, too. I would not be surprised if we did it during Blake 7 as well, and we're also proven wrong.
I guess, yeah, when you put it that way, sure. I mean, even the last episode of Blake 7 is somewhat episodic.
For some reason, we continue to give everything in the benefit of the doubt. We're just the most forgiving people on the planet.
Or the most forgetful.
The most forgetful? Or the most oblivious?
Well, there's a nice sort of creepy shot where you get the glaive kind of moving on its own, and that's sort of just in the background for now.
Yeah. Owen then starts flirting with Martha, and then he asks the question we're all wondering, is it necrophilia if I'm conscious? As we find out later, Owen cannot have intercourse anymore, so...
Yeah, I mean... Does the end of the episode really spell out whether he's back to normal, or is he still like this, or is he still the dead man walking, because he can't, in this state, he can't even, eat.
I think he's still the dead man walking.
Jesus.
I have questions about how he even, got the alcohol into his stomach, but anyway...
Yeah, what happens if you eat or drink when your esophagus doesn't work? Is it just a straight plummet down, let gravity do its work?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about how this works, because he also farts later on, but he says that that's because bodies fart when you die, because all the muscles relax. So that left me with the question, does Owen have control over any of his muscles? I mean, he clearly does because he's walking, but what's the limit on the control over his muscles? Where does it stop?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe it's just maybe it's his conscious movements that are still hardwired to whatever, electrical impulses are still going through his brain, whereas his involuntary actions digesting and breathing are not going on anymore, because we don't even know if he's really breathing or not.
Yeah. Maybe he's just breathing still out of habit. I don't know.
Yeah, the episode doesn't really concern itself with any of that. It just kind of goes right into the action. Because Owen is alone. He goes to do something. I forget what. Oh, this is actually after Tosh already tells him that what she said right when he was about to die was a lie.
Even though we all as the audience know that's not true. That's the biggest lie of the whole episode.
Yeah, and you gotta wonder, it's a bit kind of, I don't know, baffling why she does this. But hey.
Because she thinks Owen will reject her again, probably.
Yeah, she's probably right, but, it's out in the open. Like, just go with it. You've already done it. Just roll with it.
Just roll with the punches like Owen did in Adam. When he was just like, when Tosh was like, this is completely unprofessional. How can you do this? And Owen was like, what?
But anyway, the security cameras capture footage of Owen pulling a sapphire from Sapphire and Steel and just putting painted black egg carton over his eye. No. His eyes just kind of glaze over black, and he says something in an alien language.
Yeah, we have CG to do that now. We don't have to torture our lead actress.
Yeah, on Sapphire and Steel, what's her face who played Sapphire? I should remember her name.
Joanna Lumley.
Apparently, there's an episode where she kind of has the same fully black eyes that Owen has in this episode. And in one of the documentaries, she reveals that it was a material they had her put over her eyes that she said was as thick as an egg carton.
Yeah, she basically had to wear it as contacts, which, like, ow.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus. How'd you even... God.
I don't even want to think about it, to be honest.
Well, the rest of the Torchwood team is like, hey, Jack, thanks for, like, endangering us and potentially yourself by bringing Owen back, because we forgot to mention that they actually scan Jack for any signs of his life being drained away by Owen, similar to Gwen in They Keep Killing Susie. But there's no readings. Yeah,
he's just living on his own, which concerns the rest of the team because they're like, that seems like a problem.
Yeah, they just don't know how it's all working, really, and that's, I think, why they're kind of concerned.
Understandably.
Mm-hmm.
We also see a bunch of scenes of Owen, like, kind of dimension hopping. He kind of keeps jumping into this darkness dimension. He's like, what's going on? Why am I here? And we hear him saying all these wacky, probably eldritch words.
Yeah. Or, well, they're like, yeah, he's talking about essentially taking over in this alien language, which we learn later. But for now, Owen just leaves. I forget why he does this, or if it's ever, detailed, or if there's a series of events that leads up to this. But, like, he kind of just leaves and wanders around Cardiff for a while.
Yeah, he escapes, but no one notices because he tells Tosh he's going to the restroom, and Tosh doesn't check up on him when he doesn't come back. So they're like, sir. So Jack goes to track him down. We find him at a bar where he is being sexually assaulted by a woman. Because he did not give his consent for her to stick her hand down his pants. This is not a joke. We actually did just witness, like, Owen being sexually assaulted.
Yeah, true enough.
And he shoves her off and he says, get away from me. And then this is when he discovers that he can never have sex again because his blood isn't pumping, so he can't get hard, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which I have questions about this later on, related to something else, but I'm going to save it.
Like, what would it feel like if you had, like, your blood still in your veins, but it wasn't pumping? Like, would it feel heavy or like what? Yeah, I just...
why does that make me so uncomfortable to think about?
Yeah, that is kind of a... I don't know why, but you're right. That is a very gross thought, like having inert blood inside of you.
Suitable for Halloween.
Anyway, Jack shows up and gets into a fight with Owen.
Yeah, so Owen talks about how he's like, how do you think it feels to like realize that that's your whole life, that you made like no meaningful contribution to society? And I have a note here that's just like, well, should have been a better person than Owen.
I mean, he did save the world like multiple times, so...
He also, he saved it from the danger he unleashed upon the world. Let's not act like Owen is blameless in all of these situations.
Yeah, but if we're talking about like achievements, he has that under his belt
Yes.
at least. And this is just fuel on the what is now massive bonfire of our theory that Owen isn't actually a doctor, because if he really was, would he really feel that he didn't achieve much? I don't know.
I mean, I do seem to remember he was taken away from his hospital duties early in his career, so maybe he didn't get to do as much as he wanted to with his life.
Maybe, and maybe this plays into like what we kind of learned in Adam, which, now that I think about it, completely invalidates this theory that he's not actually a doctor, where he's in this like trance state and he's talking about how many lives he saved, but it was never enough type thing.
That's true. Damn, we just invalidated our own theory. It's okay, because we will probably get an email this week from a bunch of people being like, Owen actually was a doctor, by the way. Pay attention. Hashtag trust your doctor sucks.
Yeah. Well, classic.
That's just, that's... If you followed us to this point, none of this should be surprising, right? Like, none of this should be a surprise.
What is a bit of a surprise, though, is what happens next, for basically two reasons. Owen gets arrested, and Jack just seems to kind of walk away.
But also gets arrested, as we find out.
Yeah, this was a little confusing, because you cut right to them in a cell together, so you're like, wait, did Jack walk away? Like, or is he... Like, what's going on here?
No, he got Shrek'd.
What?
He got Shrek'd.
You mean evicted?
And it's like wrecked.
Oh.
But Shrek'd.
I thought you meant like because Shrek got evicted in Shrek. Or was given like notice to like leave, evict swamp by a...
Yeah, basically far, far away enacted eminent domain over Shrek's property, which, I guess he shouldn't have voted for such a big government.
Wow.
I guess he should have voted, actually, I guess is the point. How did Farquaad seize power in that universe?
I don't know. I'm sure one of the Shrek movies probably, if not details it, at least has a passing line about it.
The whole thing was like Fiona's parents... As we find out in Shrek... I don't know. Oh, God, this is a tangent. Fiona's parents in Shrek 2 are revealed to be the king and the queen.
Oh, really?
But, like, Farquaad is the one evicting Shrek in Shrek 1.
Oh, he might just be... Like, is he a duke or, like... Like, what is he?
He's a lord.
He's a lord.
Lord
Gotcha.
Farquaad.
Okay. So he just has his own sort of little parish and takes orders from the head honchos.
Except he's clearly acting on his own behalf in all of Shrek 1.
Yeah, there was very little oversight in like medieval times because of how long it would take to pass messages around, I guess.
Yeah, because wait a second, if he married a princess, he would become like ruler or something, but he clearly already has power because he's evicting Shrek from the swamp. So like, hang on a minute here, what's going on?
He just wants more, I guess. Having absolute...
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what? Whatever. I really don't care. I actually despise the Shrek franchise, so anyway.
Yes, do I?
I think we despise it for the same reason, but anyway.
There's like 20 reasons why I despise it, but yeah. So this scene, I guess it's become a running trend now, perhaps replacing the Owen mixing chemicals trend of Jack just referencing and hinting that he had some sort of relationship with a famous writer, because this time he talks about how he used to know Proust.
Good old him.
Sneak a little Swan's way in here. Little searching for lost time, whatever it's called.
I feel like this mysterious author that mentioned I know even less Even less.
That's weird because Proust is like probably at least 5 times as famous as Christopher Isherwood.
That's weird because I've definitely heard Isherwood's name, but probably not. I don't recall ever hearing Proust's name before, but I've definitely heard Isherwood's name.
You haven't heard of In Search of Lost Time, which is like this big epic
No.
like 1,000-page or more book?
You may not believe me, but no, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, weird. It's a pretty famous book. I've had multiple false starts on it, but my God, is it boring.
Well, thankfully for me, I'm not an English major.
Anyway, the other surprising thing about this scene is that Owen is standing on his head. And as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh God, it was Owen that we saw in that season trailer.
Yeah, I had the exact same moment of revelation. I was like, oh no. Because Owen explains, because he drank a bunch of beer at the bar, and he explains that because his body isn't working, the alcohol is just sitting in his stomach, so he needs to get it out. And so in order to do this, he decides to just stand on his head, and he's like, if I can just line up my esophagus with the alcohol, it'll all just come streaming out, and then he just goes, and then Jack has the perfect reaction, which I completely agree with, which is where he goes, that was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And I have to completely agree with Jack here. That was one of, if not the most disgusting things I've ever seen.
Oh, lucky you. I mean, this doesn't even make my top 10.
Well, more like unlucky you.
Yeah. The things I've seen on the internet, not in person. Well, the return of the stunned silence, our third host.
No, the third host is Adam. Stunned Silence is host 4.
Oh, right.
We've both participated in Stunned Silence, though, so...
As all of this is going on, the Torchwood team has checked the security camera footage and found, the footage of Owen speaking this alien language.
And so they tried to use the mysterious universal translator that fell through the hole. And by the hole, I mean the Cardiff Rift. I don't know why I just called it a hole. Fell through the rift at some point. And it doesn't work, actually. Tosh is like, it's never done that before. And then, Tosh turning out to be useless this week. Gwen just, Googles the problem and finds out everything about the problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of Googling for information and, just skimming Wikipedia to find out the answer in this episode.
Yep. And somehow it turns out to be completely correct. And that stunned me. Especially when Tosh, I guess, upset at being upstaged by Google, is like, are we really going to believe information she just Googled?
And if what Ianto has to say and do later in the episode is any indication, yeah.
Oh, Ianto.
So Jack and Owen get out. Again, I think this is one of those things where the episode just cuts away and you just kind of see them on the street.
No, I think they're still coming back. They're coming back from the jail cell, and they get out because Jack finally goes, you know what? Let's just get out of here. And he just goes to the cell door and he goes, I'm Jack Harkness from Torchwood, identification code, blah, 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 blah. You can look me up. Let us go now.
Yeah, using his position of power to evade jail or holding or whatever.
We also find out that Owen is, I guess, Officer 565 for Torchwood. It's the 565th person hired by Torchwood, which, considering Torchwood was only established in the Victorian era, that's like a pretty high turnover rate, actually.
Yeah, so, like, what year did Tooth and Claw take place? It was like 18... Might have been...
80 something,
1880s,
wasn't it?
so that's like 130 years? 120 years? From
130 years, and they've had 535 people. That's like an average of 4 people a year, almost. Probably a little less.
Yeah, true. That is a pretty, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Just the turnover rate at Torchwood must just be horrendous. I guess, okay, to be fair, we did find out, or we did know that there were other Torchwood establishments in the UK, that there were actually 4 of them. So, I mean, I guess that would mean that on average, like, each Torchwood station was turning over 1 employee a year, which is still actually surprisingly pretty high for only like a 5-person team, but imagine just like your 5 closest friends and one of them at random just gets killed every year.
Yeah. Makes sense, though. I mean, their line of work is pretty dangerous, so...
So they get surrounded by weevils, and Jack is like, well, they probably want me because I stole the gauntlet from them. So they're running away, and in true Torchwood fashion, they made it to the top of a parking garage.
Yeah. But with nowhere left to run, they find out that Owen can assert at least some control over the weevils.
Yeah, and I have a note here that's like, are they really picking up on that weird-ass random plot thread they dropped in combat? Like, are we really going back to that?
I thought I didn't even think back to that. I thought it had something to do with how he was connected to death, as we find out in a bit.
Possibly, but if you'll remember back in combat, he was basically just staring that weevil down when they were in the cage, and the weevil was like not doing anything. And there was that very final scene at the very end. It was the very last scene where Owen went into the containment area with the weevils, and the weevil in the cell like backed into the corner, away from Owen. So maybe it's a combination of both. Who knows?
We probably will never find out.
Well, thanks to the Amazon plot summaries. So there is also a conversation between Jack and Owen where Jack reveals that the real reason he brought Owen back is because Owen is like, did you feel guilt? And he's like, no, I think the real reason I brought you back was because I wasn't ready to give up on you yet.
Yeah, Jack definitely has a soft spot for Owen and all of them.
I mean, he hired all of them instead of retconning them when they found out about Torchwood. And that's the sign of a good boss. Instead of erasing your mind using drugs, he hires you.
Well, they make it back to Torchwood HQ, and they find out, through the magic of the internet, that death is going to be soon upon them again.
Yeah.
Gwen and I think Ianto chimes in here, but maybe that was just later. Gwen tells them that she looked up some information about death and the gauntlet, and how in ancient times this sort of was a Children of the Stones-esque moment, where they're kind of drawing into the ancient past, the ancient mythological, beginnings of Cardiff. Yeah,
Cardiff.
So, at the site where Cardiff would eventually be built, death was said to have come down to Earth or whatever, or come up, and taken like 12 souls. It was aiming for a 13th, but it never got that 13th.
Unfortunately, it tried so hard and got so far.
But in the end, it didn't even matter for at least 1,000 years because faith alone stopped it.
Hell yeah, faith. And at first, everybody thinks, including you as the audience member, that faith means like religious faith. And they're like, well, how does that work? How does that work? And so they're just like, well, I guess we'll just figure it out as we go because we're having problems of our own here. And by problems of our own, we mean that Owen is 80% infected with death.
Yeah, so Death used the gauntlet, I guess, as a conduit between itself and Owen, kind of putting into perspective that little car conversation in They Keep Killing Susie, how, Susie was like, there's something out there in the darkness. It's coming closer and closer, and, that's just kind of what you feel when you die. You find out in this episode is probably Death, and now it's using Owen to revive itself.
Yep. And then, this is when I had questions. So, Owen says the only way to stop it is to inject formaldehyde into his blood because it'll basically freeze his brain and he won't be conscious anymore. But my question was, how does this work? Because we know his heart isn't beating. So injecting it into his blood will it'll just be latent formaldehyde in his blood if they do that. Kind of feels like they need to actually just direct it directly into his brain.
I guess it's just like it's connected to his consciousness rather than his like physical being or something. I don't know.
Well, I wasn't too bothered with it. I just had questions.
Well, maybe one of the many Torchwood novels that I learned existed in this past week answer that question. Probably not, but maybe.
You didn't realize Torchwood novels existed?
No, I mean, I guess I didn't really think about it. I guess if you had told me they existed, I would have been like, oh yeah, duh, but like, which is what happened. But yeah, I didn't actually think about it until Alex mentioned it on Facebook.
Great. I mean, there were Doctor Who novels for like literally everything, so I wasn't surprised when I found out that there were Torchwood novels.
Yeah, neither was I. 2 days ago. So Death like comes back in some capacity and attacks Martha.
Yeah, so the gauntlet activates and comes alive and starts jumping around and attacks Martha. And they all basically fight to keep the gauntlet off her face because it's trying to kill her. And in doing so, they neglect to cure Owen or stop Owen because then Death takes over Owen and they're like, shoot.
He escapes, but they have bigger problems to deal with immediately because Martha has aged like a lot.
Yes, she's an old woman now.
They take her to the hospital because there's obviously a problem that like medical science can solve. And
obviously, and not Torchwood with like, I don't know, alien technology. This is a problem regular old human doctors can solve.
I think though, like her body, there was something like wrong with her that was able to be solved by like doctors. So they like that was brought about like at a rapid like rate because of her like sudden old age. So I think that's why they brought her in. ?
Yeah, as we find out, she was dehydrated, like massively dehydrated, and her red blood cell count was really low. As we find out when she goes in to the hospital, when they take her into the hospital, sorry.
So they're all wondering where Owen could be, and I think Jack suggests that he's probably here at the hospital because he's looking for people to kill, I guess. I don't know if that's what you would call what he's doing, but yeah, I guess he's killing people.
He needs to like absorb their souls to be able to come back fully to the planet, and that's, he needs the 13 like he needed in the old days. And so he's killing people in this hospital, and they are able to evacuate the hospital, so he's only gotten 12 people so far.
Yeah, but there was this kid playing his Game Boy on the toilet, And he didn't hear about the evacuation because of that. So.
Yeah. Freaking Jamie Burton on the toilet. Look, that's what's happening. His name is Jamie.
A lesser Jamie, if I do say so myself. Jamie McCrimmon was truly the cream of the crop when it comes to Jamie's.
Speaking of Jamie McCrimmon, the most shocking tweet of my life was about a month ago when, in the Mind Hubber, when they just replaced Jamie with another actor for like 2 weeks so Fraser Hines could take a vacation, and they did so by like having the doctor try to reassemble Jamie's face out of all the cut up pieces of his face.
That, but yeah.
Well, somebody on Twitter took all the other cut out pieces and reassembled them into faces, and the most shocking thing was none of them were Fraser Hines' face, so there was no way for Patrick Troughton's doctor to get it right.
Jeez, the things the second Doctor went through.
The poor man. But anyway.
Was the second Doctor the most, like, tortured Doctor of the classic era?
Considering his conclusion was to have his mind wiped of his two companions. Or his two companions' mind wipe of him, and then he was exiled to Earth and forced to regenerate. Like, I don't know, that's quite a bit,
He also seemed to, like, really care about what was going on around him, as opposed to, like, I don't know, say the fourth Doctor, who kind of just rolled with all the punches.
Yeah, the second Doctor was very empathetic.
Yeah.
He did, like, thinking about it now, have one of the, like, worst ends if you really think about it.
10 episode build up to that.
10 episode build up to the Time Lords saving the day for him, where he tried desperately for 9 episodes to do everything but call the Time Lords, and then he had to call them in the end, and then they just their payment was to just exile him and kill him, basically.
So yeah, Death has taken 12 victims, and you kind of it's obscure on screen at this point, but you do kind of see it's like this skeleton, like shrouded in fog, and it's kind of just getting people.
So Ianto is on search duty. He's keeping Martha company, old lady Martha, and he's trying to find more information on the previous attack that Gwen had found out about, and he discovers that faith doesn't mean religious faith. It means literally the young girl, her name was Faith. Because I guess we didn't really explain this, but the gauntlet was originally used during the Black Plague to revive a young girl, and that's how death found its way back into the world during the Black Plague. And then Faith, the little girl, was the one who defeated death.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure. Was this supposed to be the tarot girl?
I don't think... I mean, I think from what I was reading, a lot of people buy into that theory, but I don't think it's ever explicitly stated or said that she is.
It makes sense because she's been alive for however long. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, alive.
And then we didn't actually mention, but the tarot card she pulls is Death.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As Jack's leaving. Because she begs Jack not to use the gauntlet before telling him where it is.
Yeah, so it's most likely her. I mean, all the indications there, everything short of straight up saying that it's her is in the episode, so.
Yeah, I mean, my interpretation was that it was her. So.
But, I guess until it's confirmed one way or the other by, like, Big Finish or whoever else, I guess that's just your opinion, man.
It's true.
With overwhelming evidence indicating it's right, but man. Still.
So Owen realizes what he has to do, and he gives the boy a very strangely Doctor-esque speech.
Yeah, this felt... I don't want to, like, really rail into this But this felt so unearned, with him talking to Jamie, because he and Tosh go back in for Jamie or something. They're escorting him out. Yeah.
Yeah, because Jamie's the 13th death that Death needs. The 13th sacrifice, I think, is actually the word they're using.
But yeah, Owen pulls him over to the side and is like, sometimes when you're face to face with death, you just gotta dance with the dance to the dead, the prisoner, episode 8. You just gotta, yeah, that's, just, because we didn't mention Jamie has leukemia.
Nailed it. So Owen gives him the speech about how, because Jamie talks about not wanting to go in for his next chemo treatment because it hurts and the cancer is still there, and Owen gives him a very motivational speech about how it's tough, to keep fighting, and it sucks and it hurts, and a lot of people die from leukemia. Just a great start to the speech by Owen. But then he says that, but if you want to win, you just got to keep fighting, even though it hurts and it sucks. But he says that he believes in Jamie, and then he's like, and if you just want proof that sometimes you can beat death, just watch me. And Jamie's like, watch you do what? And he's like, watch me beat death.
So he walks in, pulls out a Glock, shoots death a couple times. No.
He just puts a cap in death.
He does kind of actually physically grapple with death, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And he beats it.
Mm-hmm.
He just dies, proving to Jamie, proving that Jamie was right.
And everyone's like, oh, well, oops.
That's the reaction to this. That's the reaction to this alien force coming through and the 12 deaths and just everything they've been. Oops.
Whoopsie daisy.
Just imagine the Torchwood press conference, is this thing working? Our bad, everyone. This one's on us.
What? Sorry, guys. Yeah, sorry. That was on us. Our bad. We did bad. But that doesn't actually happen.
He beats it, and just everything goes back to normal. Martha is back to her normal age. But what they don't know is that she actually hasn't been returned to her previous age. She's actually a few minutes older. So death really got its revenge. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say we shouldn't skip the scene where Tosh refuses to let Owen fight death alone, and then he kisses her in order to distract her enough to get her on the other side of the door that he then closes and locks her out. And he's like, haha, gotcha.
Yeah, just really, enforcing this episode's themes and messages about how hospital doors should lock from the outside and not the inside. Now, that's what I got out of the episode. I don't know about you.
What? No, that's not what I got out of the episode. What I got out of the episode is if you die, just find someone who has a sick medieval glove, which, by the way, also just disintegrates the instant it gets shot.
Yeah, freaking alien tech. Not sturdy whatsoever. What are you doing, aliens? Come on.
Yeah. Every gauntlet we've seen has just been less sturdy than an actual medieval gauntlet.
Yeah, why don't, modern soldiers just wear, plate armor? That would protect you from bullets,
Because it's really heavy.
What can you do, bring out heavy artillery against?
Yes. You could literally do that, yes. Just pull out a Gatling gun, then what are you going to do? I mean, I would argue that Kevlar wouldn't protect you from a Gatling gun either, so... at that point, the trade-off is the extra weight for nothing.
Not most, but now it's just drones, so, no actual risk there. No bodily risk.
Tell that to all of the, military, all the military members who are still overseas in the Middle East.
Okay. All right.
Okay, let me know when you've done
I'll
it.
follow up on this eventually.
6 years from now.
That's pretty much that. We find out in the preview that the next episode also revolves around Owen.
Yeah, so it looks like he goes on a vigilante spree of some sort.
Oh, joy.
Because this episode ends with him asking Jack for his job back. I guess he's automatically fired when he dies.
Yeah, what kind of operation are you running here, Torchwood? You just fire people just because they die? Like,
Yeah, I mean they of all people should know that that death does not stop you.
no, yeah, for sure. I guess if you didn't have anything, else to touch on, or even if you did, because this is a good segue into what I kind of wanted to touch on for this episode, which is that, like, I don't know about you, but I'm actually kind of surprised and a little put off with how much Torchwood has revolved around Owen so far. I mean, this is supposedly an ensemble show, or it was at least appeared to be to me at the beginning. Yet, really, if there's one character who has been in the spotlight more than anyone else, it's Owen. And he is my favorite character, I would say, so far. But yeah, I mean, just come on, focus on someone else for once.
I mean, we got like one Tosh episode. We got a couple Jack episodes. We got a couple Gwen episodes. But I agree, the vast majority of them have been Owen episodes. And that's interesting because, again, ostensibly the main character is Gwen, not Owen. But yeah, and I guess I was gonna say but that's okay. But on the other hand, they had a real opportunity to like dive deep into Jack's character in this episode, and they kind of touch on it. We get a little bit of a sliver of that where he does try to bring Owen back, and he does talk with Owen about like the downsides to immortality. But at the same time, we never really delve deep into that. Like, this could have been a really interesting way to not only have an Owen episode, but also to see how it affects Jack. But the extent of what we see on that front is not as much as I guess I had hoped there would be.
Yeah, I mean, if we dive into like how much Jack was affected by this, a lot definitely. But yeah, I think like you said, maybe there could have been a little more. This episode was very, I think, concerned with basically its plot, like its point A to point B to point C. Didn't really. Well, I say that, but then there was that moment in the jail, between the two. I don't know. I felt at the end, by the time I'd watched everything, that like the sort of the death plot line, I guess, overshadowed that. But
And I
hey,
guess I guess I also I'm less inclined to like this episode because it just uses so many concepts we've seen before, right? Like, bringing them back from the dead with the gauntlet was a thing we saw with Susie. And then, like, the resolution to this episode where Owen is the one who has to defeat death because he's already dead, he's got nothing else to give, was, to me, very similar to the end of days when Jack defeats Abaddon because Jack can't die, so Abaddon just gorges itself to death. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that it kind of feels like, sure, this episode puts all those pieces together that were disparate before, but the fact that it feels like we've seen every piece of this story already makes me less inclined to be like, yes, that was a great time. Or like, yeah, that was a meaningful contribution to the season. But I don't know.
Yeah. at least Owen still gets to be a wild card after his death. I mean, my wild card Owen moment this week was him vomiting.
Yeah, mine too. Just him deciding he was going to projectile vomit while on his head. That was an interesting choice.
Yeah, like we mentioned,
That was definitely an interesting choice.
Like we mentioned, we had known about this scene since the very beginning because it was in the season trailer. And what a surprise that it was actually Owen. Because it wasn't very clear. It was only on screen for about a second in the trailer, and you can't really see who it is.
Well, before we go too deep into the segments, there was something else I actually wanted to talk about this episode that I found interesting, which is that the gauntlet that they use in this episode, when it brings back Owen, brings back, quote unquote, it brings him back in connection with death, whereas the previous gauntlet was based on life. So I found that very interesting that the right-hand gauntlet was life-based, so you brought someone back by giving up your life force, so you brought someone back through the power of life, whereas the left-hand gauntlet brought someone back through the power of death because it opened them up to literally death. Whatever this creature is claiming to be death, I guess we don't know it's actually death, but...
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. And that actually also brings up that, almost every single Doctor Who creature, whether it is introduced as an alien or is introduced as supernatural, is by the end of the story revealed to actually just be an alien. Except this one.
Yeah, we get no explanation for this at all. Is it actually an alien, or is it actually death, like literally death? We don't actually know by the end of the episode.
I think the only thing that kind of hints that it's an alien is that they use the alien translator thing, and yeah, I think that's the only...
Yeah, but the alien translator fails at first to translate the words that Owen's speaking.
But doesn't it one... Maybe I'm just making this up or misremembering. Doesn't it work to some extent? Doesn't it translates a little bit of it, and they're like, well, that didn't work, and then they stop, or I don't remember, but
yeah, it's kind of fragmented. It does some weird stuff.
Yeah.
And Tasha's like, oh, it's never done that before.
Yeah, which I guess that begs the question even further. Is this maybe if the translator can only translate alien languages instead of supernatural ones or ones from another dimension or something? I don't know.
Who knows? Not me.
I guess now that I think about it, was Abaddon revealed to be an alien, or I can't remember.
Abaddon was implied to be the son of the beast from Satan Pit, who we know he was an alien.
Yeah, so I guess this is the only one. I can't think of a single instance where the supernatural ghost or werewolf or whatever hasn't been an alien on Doctor Who. So
yeah, and we've talked about that before, about how Doctor Who just decides to lean on it was an alien every time.
Loch Ness Monster was the pteroleptals.
Yeah. Was it the... Shoot. Was it the pteroleptals? I thought it was the Zygons.
It was the Zygons. Gosh.
How did you get those two confused? The Zygons are a staple of Doctor Who now, and the pteroleptals are but merely a footnote.
Just goes to show you that the pteroleptals need to come back.
I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one.
Look, all I'm saying...
Can you imagine if Chris Chibnall brought back the pteroleptals next season?
Well, if he does, I'm sure people will have plenty to complain about. And even if he doesn't, people are like, wow, Chibnall not bringing back the pteroleptals? New Doctor Who is trash.
Well, if I was the showrunner for Doctor Who, which I'm not, but if I was, I would make an announcement. I'd be like, hey guys, I'm bringing back an old classic villain. I'd let people speculate for ages, and then I'd bring back the pteroleptals.
The Vervoids.
The Crotons. I would bring back one of those, many underwhelming villains who were, the most monster of the week that you could possibly be.
like the Zarbi or something.
Yeah. I would also bring back Antidus just because. Look, there's a deep cut. You didn't think I was going to go for that, did you? Surprise! Wildcard Dylan on the podcast.
We can bring back Dione. Just her, none of the other people.
Ooh, we're digging deep. I'd bring back what's his name, the tax collector from like the Sunmakers.
Wow. Wow. Oh god, what was his name? Who played Villa in Blake 7? Oh, Michael
Keating.
Oh god, Keating. It was Keating. He's still.
I like. Like, oh god, like we don't know, like, oh god.
We called him Keaton for at least half of season A on Blake 7.
Heck yeah.
Check out 7th of Blake 7 podcast. But yeah, he's still alive. Bring back his character from the Sunmakers.
Yeah, I would do, if I was showrunner, I would do it just to get one more last appearance of Michael Keating on the show.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Sunmakers
why
2.
not?
You could do a lot with the Sunmakers 2, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, you could, because, you know, the things that the Sunmakers, you know, was critiquing at the time have not gone away, shall we say.
Even worse now? Yeah.
Yeah. So a sequel to the Sunmakers could actually be very interesting.
What else was very interesting was Tasha's tech this week.
Don't have much for this, I'm going to be honest.
Well, neither did I, which is why mine was her confessing to Owen. You know, that's a form of technology, right? It advanced in the course of human achievement, so... You know, people, Homo sapiens didn't come into existence with the ability to express these thoughts. They were developed over the course of centuries. So, they count.
Is evolution a technology?
No, it's not.
Okay, I mean that's a lot nicer than my Tasha's Tech Corner. My Tasha's Tech Corner was her failure to use the translation device.
So like Tasha's technophobia?
Tech failure.
Yeah. God, can Tosh do anything right? Jesus.
Not this week.
No.
Ignore Ianto. Done.
I didn't have much for Gwen this week. I mean, she was kind of just in the background again. I guess you could...
Yeah, I didn't have her committing any... Well, I couldn't give her a sloth this week because she does research. She does bring up the research that we need to, like, save the day. We forgot the random scene where she calls Reese and just cries.
Yeah.
After Owen comes back, and... Yeah.
You could kind of argue that her research was a form of sloth, since she obviously didn't do enough to reveal that Faith was the name of the girl.
Ianto had to finish the job, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Also, what was with the weird Weight Watchers drop in this episode?
Just a little bit of comedy to brighten up the mood, brighten up the moment.
Great. Great. Thank you, Ianto. Thank you.
The hero we need but don't deserve, Ianto Jones.
Yes. Ianto.
Welp.
And yeah, just how much this is going to affect Jack?
Yeah, again, kind of what we touched on before. You know, you actually see it affect him in the episode, but maybe, like, they could have done a deeper dive into it. I don't know.
Yeah, and, like, after the results of the episode, I kind of wonder if it's going to affect Jack anymore, and I'm not convinced it's going to. I'm going to be honest.
No, probably not.
So, because he seems okay, I take that back a little bit, because he does at the very end of the episode seem a little bit perturbed by the whole situation, because Tosh is like, so what do we do now? And Jack does have that line where he's like, well, you can never really outrun death. It just waits for you. So there is kind of an implication that he may be a little bit skeptical, shall we say, of what's happening.
Yeah. We might see how that plays out next week.
We might also not. I'm not going to get my hopes up.
No, probably a good idea to not get your hopes up. As for for actors this week, I neglected to look up anyone.
I don't blame you, because it was perhaps not obvious who to look up. But I did look up the two kids, because believe it or not, Ben Walker, who plays Jamie Burton, is only 2 years older than Sky Bennett, who plays the little girl.
He actually looked younger. I mean, if I had to guess, I would have said he was, even younger.
Might be the fact that you can't see his hair.
Yeah.
So Sky Bennett, who played the little girl, I have her in Doctors, Casualty, and funnily enough, the same year she did this, she provided the voice of the GPS for Euro Truck Simulator.
God, that's so weird.
Imagine at 13 providing the voice for a GPS in a video game. I want to know about the experience. Maybe we should try to get Sky Bennett on the podcast. Wouldn't that be our claim to fame?
the most triple Z list actor on Doctor Who.
Whoa.
No, okay, not saying that she's the most triple Z, but like the most inconsequential, like, to the Doctor Who universe, or one of the most, That's what I meant.
She's playing Margot in a movie called Where is Anne Frank that's currently filming. She also was a voice actress for the Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And she played Wasp in Lego Marvel Superheroes 2. Look, she's not that Z-list.
Yeah, you're right. She's not that Z-list, but like when it comes to Doctor Who, she is like within the Doctor Who like category, She's
also a figure skater, apparently.
Huh. Yeah.
She has 2 cats, according to IMDb biographies, which you always have to wonder, how do they find that out?
Yeah. Facebook stalking or Twitter stalking or whatever. So
that would be weird.
I mean, people do it for every actor,
weird.
no matter what list they're on, whether it's A or Z or, freaking going into the Greek alphabet like they do when there's more than 26 hurricanes a year.
Which is becoming increasingly more common, I should add, thanks to global warming.
Yeah, we've mentioned global warming a lot lately. Maybe that should be a segment of like our global warming check every week.
Considering we're living through the effects of it, and it's basically threatening our very lives and existences, I don't blame us for mentioning it every week.
Yeah. I mean, related, kind of, but I just learned that like freaking 90 or like 95% of plastic like hasn't been recycled.
Hell yeah.
And that they're like, I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's like these, we don't have to go too deep into this, but there's like these trash barges that are just roaming the open seas with just piled with trash because there's like nowhere else to put it.
Great. I found out that we've got a landfill like actually surprisingly close to us.
Yeah, I think I knew about that.
Anyway, the other actor I looked up was Ben Walker, who played Jamie Burton. He is actually pretty Z-list because basically his only acting credits are this, The Golden Compass, a TV movie version of Sweeney Todd, and Doctors. I think he played the little boy in Sweeney Todd because that was his first acting role.
Yeah, maybe we should try and get him on. He's more our speed with what he's been on.
I tried to see if Sky Bennett had a Twitter we could contact her through, but I don't really see. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with probably not. But she does look like she has a Twitch account.
Oh my god. You know, I remember for some reason watching the Golden Compass movie as a kid, and just it ends on like a cliffhanger. So I was like, wait, what? Like, that's it? Because it ends with them going to this like big battle, but then yeah, it just ends. And surprisingly enough, I didn't read the book. I never read the book of that, even though I was a pretty voracious reader as a child, and probably read
That's like the second week in a row you've used that word, I think, too.
Really? Good. I need to expand my vocabulary.
I think you've used it in the exact same context, in fact.
Yeah. Yeah, just goes to show you that, actually, I don't know, but it goes to show you.
Did we mention Tosh getting called out for stalking Owen in the Torchwood hub? Don't know if we did.
Yeah, I don't even remember that, so no.
Well, anyway. So that's actually everything I've got for everything this
we
week.
got a couple emails over the course of the last couple weeks. Again, I neglected to read some for meat, actually. So,
God damn it.
Yeah.
How did you do that when we recorded Meat and Reset twice?
Look, don't overestimate me. Just not even my anything, just me. No. So yeah, if we don't have any emails, I think we can go into that.
Yeah, we, as far as I can tell, don't have any emails this week for Dead Man Walking.
Yeah.
Alas.
Yeah. So yeah, again, some of these meat emails, or sorry, Facebook comments from freaking over 2 weeks ago. So Alex comments, compare the metaphors of the star whales in The Beast Below and Meat. In The Beast Below, the alien is a savior constantly being attacked by the people he is helping, and the doctor decides that it is better to sacrifice the whale and his faith in himself as the doctor to ensure it no longer suffers, but keeps doing its job. Then his friend realizes they can have a happy ending after all. In Meat, the alien is trapped by circumstance at the site of the rift, constantly suffering so the Cardiff populace can benefit. Jack decides to save the creature and get it to safety. Then his friend decides killing it is the merciful thing to do. That right there is the clearest distinction between Doctor Who and Torchwood. The Doctor's a fairy tale hero who will be evil if it means saving the most people. Then his friends help him be the better man. Captain Jack is a suffering martyr who is trapped by circumstance but wants to be a hero. Then his friends help him see the pragmatic, brutal reality. That's a great point, and I had never thought of that until reading this, because we've always mentioned, Torchwood is sort of the dark side of Doctor Who, whereas Doctor Who is let's save everyone, and, a lot of the stories have a happy ending. But yeah, when you look at it like that, that happy ending is actually at the expense of a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how that holds up in the context of Reset, where Owen seems to be surprisingly have not many strong feelings about killing all the aliens in the base, where Jack is just like, you know what, we'll just do it. Because in that framework, like, Reset seems to be a very clear parallel with Beast Below, where Jack is mostly killing these people, but he also is, in a way, serving the greater good, because, like, the Mayfly serum kills people when they inject with them. Inject people with it, sorry.
Yeah, that's a good question, and, I don't know the answer to that, obviously. So. Well, Frey Bentos also comments on Meat. I really like this one, but I suspect I may be in the minority. I don't actually know what the critical and, fan reception to Meat was.
It's okay, because if you ever agree with Trust Your Doctor, then you're probably,
wrong.
We did get an email from Sergeant Drano about the Prisoner reboot, which we've announced we're going to be doing for the next season of Inevitable in a couple months. And he said, most Prisoner fans hated the reboot, so you guys will probably love it.
Yep, sounds about right.
Can't stop us now. We're too deep. Speaking of too deep, funnily enough, today is the 11th birthday of Crinoid Podcast.
Woo! Yeah!
Woo! Happy birthday, Crinoid. This is going out a week and a day later, but, happy birthday anyway. 11 years, that's really impressive, actually.
Yeah. So Boz also comments on the episode. It wasn't too bad, this one. I liked Reese getting involved. That was fun. Yeah, it was. It was fun. I totally agree.
Agreed.
So we also got a couple comments on Adam. One from Alex says, "Are you starting to see why I suggested I look at how badly Jack should be affected, but isn't? It would be interesting to see see you look back on all that has happened to Jack in these last two series. Don't forget the year being tortured by the Master between series 1 and 2 of Torchwood. It's ironic that I genuinely forgot about Adam. What I remember was a Torchwood book I read about the same time with a similar premise, but handled differently, called Border Princes." And then I responded to that. I speculated to how hard it would be to get a hold of the Torchwood books these days. Probably not too bad. They're probably going around on eBay and if not other used book sites, then Amazon at least. So
Torchwood book. Don't let me down now, eBay. I found so many weird things on here.
eBay's search is really weird, so you have to put things in quotes like you used to in 2002 or whatever.
eBay's search is actually incredibly powerful, much more powerful than Google's, surprisingly. You have the ability to explicitly exclude words just by putting a minus sign and then surrounding them in quotes, and then it'll find everything for what's outside that phrase, but then explicitly exclude words inside the quotes.
You can do that on Google too.
Yeah, it's just more annoying on Google.
Yeah, Google doesn't work that well with... Well, yeah, I think Google is now because they're working towards it being you just type a question into Google and it spits out an answer. More like Wolfram Alpha where it's knowledge, but and that doesn't exactly align with what you used to have, how you used to have to search in 2003 of put the thing in quotes and then put a plus between it if you want another word or, that sort of string.
I did find a bunch of Torchwood books on eBay, so confirmed they are kicking around eBay.
Hell yeah. When we run out of things to watch and listen to, that'll be our sort of wheelhouse. But anyway, we had another comment on Adam. Colin Howie says, "Start it all again just to be sure. Just think you can enjoy the likes of Tagana and the Monk all over again," which I believe was in reference to us joking that Adam was a third host or something. Yeah.
At the end when we just random casually said, Adam will be back next week. Sorry he wasn't on the episode this week, guys. We know you're all disappointed or something like that.
Yeah, and that's all we got on the email front. Or comment front. I don't know why I keep calling them emails.
Well, what's the difference, really?
Just the medium.
Yeah, just the, I guess. All right, fair. But in general, they're the same.
Same idea.
You get the same idea, same kind of content through both. But anyway, on that note, I really have nothing left to talk about for this week's episode.
Yeah, I'm done.
If you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on Torchwood. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable, and find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook, also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. And next time we are going to be watching... A Day in the Death. But until then, the end.